Lieutenant Colonel Amy McGrath. She was the first woman to fly a combat mission for the Marines and flew over 85 combat missions during her career. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for being with us. Colonel McGrath, I want to start with you because there's just a seriousness about this. You flew aircraft when you were in the Marines. I want you to just think about this airman, the one who's missing right now. What is that person trained to do in this situation? They're behind enemy lines. We don't know where they are. We don't know what condition they're in.
Yeah, first let me say that war is not a video game. It's really real. And, you know, the aircrew, first of all, they are trained for this to happen. Every single flight, a combat mission that you go on, you brief this sort of scenario. And prior to that, you go through an entire school of how to train to make sure that you can evade and resist getting captured. So our aircrew is very well trained for this. When you eject from an aircraft, that's a very violent thing to have happen. You may not survive the ejection. If you do, you might be injured. You may not be able to move. You have some devices on you that can communicate. They're encrypted, so you're trained to use those devices, but you may not want to use them depending on where you're at. And so the tactics of how an aircrew is going to evade right now, I'm not going to go into, but because we're obviously an aircrew is actively trying to do that right now. So I think that's really important for people to know. But we are trained and we have the best combat search and rescue capability on the planet. So if they can be found, we're going to find them.
Barbara Starr, my old friend, it is great to see you again. You have covered every sort of instance like this that there has been in recent memory. I think to Colonel McGrath's point, this isn't a video game. It would be helpful if we didn't continue to hear from the president and from Pete Hegseth about how it's a game, about how nobody's shooting at us, about how they've got no capabilities to do things. This is a war, and bad things happen in war.
Inevitably, they do. And maybe, just maybe, Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump are learning that lesson tonight. To follow up on what Colonel McGrath was saying, and she's the expert here, what I'm noticing tonight is we have someone down behind enemy lines. This person may have no food. They may be thirsty, bleeding, looking for water, very cognizant their families are aware that they are missing a loved one tonight. So this is all important. This is something that U.S. forces are trained to deal with. But I think one of the key questions here tonight is the other side of the equation. How is it, with all the things that Trump and Hegseth have been saying, how is it that Iran still has this capability and is still successful in using it? Yes, you can always have a one-off where your adversary is able to shoot at you and be successful. But I think a key question is, what capabilities does Iran still have in its anti-air capability? Is somebody helping them target? Are they learning new tactics about when to turn their radars on to try and locate U.S. warplanes overhead? What are they doing that is making them successful right now? That is something the Pentagon has got to figure out.
And David, this is important because you're in Jerusalem where similar things are happening. The Donald Trump is taking a page out of Benjamin Netanyahu's book here in terms of exaggerating things that happen, military activities that occur. It was very clear to all of us last June that the joint Israeli-American attacks on Iran obliterated their nuclear capability. And suddenly we're at war with them to deal with their nuclear capability. 2 days ago, Donald Trump said Americans will be fine with the high price of gas because we don't have the danger of someone, the words he used was throwing a nuclear weapon at us. There was zero threat of Iran throwing any sort of nuclear weapon at the United States.
Yeah, Ali, you're right in saying that Donald Trump seems to be following Netanyahu's lead here, or perhaps learning the wrong lessons from Netanyahu. Since I've been here, the military and political officials that I've spoken to have been similarly, let's say, ambiguous in describing the military goals of this campaign. They were unclear in saying whether or not it involved actually toppling the government of the Islamic Republic, which of course has not been achieved. Similarly in Lebanon.